Good morning, Doctor. Welcome back.
Good morning, Venkatesh. Nice to be back.
Great, great. So I'll just introduce the topic as always.
Right.
We started last week sort of series on positive wellness, on what positive action-oriented steps we can take to improve our wellness. And one of the first things one needs to do to take any action is to take the initiative, and which is the topic for today. And why it's not easy to do, but is an important thing for all of us to get going on anything. Action is the core of wellness we've been talking about, and that's why the topic. Over to you, Doc.
Thank you, Venkatesh. As you just heard from him, if you want to be well and if you want to be positive, you have to take the initiative somewhere. Somebody has to take the initiative.
Correct.
And see how the story normally unfolds in very groups. But you have to be positive and you have to be well in body, mind, and soul for you to initiate the entire process in a positive, nice, healthy manner. So
Correct.
we'll take a close look at this. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
So we say, take the initiative. If something is happening and it's not happening in your own way, the way you want, somebody will say, take the initiative and make a change.
Correct.
Take the initiative and make a change. And this is where most of us fail, because most of us are afflicted with inertia.
Right.
We do unless somebody pushes us and so forth. So somebody has to take the initiative, and that somebody must be you.
Correct.
Only you take it properly in the direction you want.
Correct.
Otherwise, something will happen and you will repent why you didn't take the initiative and so forth. So taking the initiative is a weighty advice, and it's a very easy one to follow, but it is not possible to follow either. There are people who take the initiative in most of the situations and come out with good sense of winning somewhere. So take the initiative is a very powerful mantra that all of us will have to practice and then bring out the results. Next slide, please. Now, in this diagram, in this picture rather, you see the word initiate, and you see a couple of guys sitting there. Initiate means that you are setting something in motion. You are starting an activity and you are bringing it to being. That is initiating. That initiation here is exemplified by two guys holding a stick in hand and then doing something. Now, what is that exactly? Here, there is a piece of wood, and there is a man with a stick, and there is a guy, it's a boy with something to hold it steady. Now, when they churn it, what you get is fire. Now, the very first instance of fire in human civilization has been with fire stones or flint stones, which are struck against each other, or wood, which is made into a stick and then rolled up and down in a hole, and then the friction brings out the heat. The friction brings the heat, and wherever it is, you can see in nature, you see forest fires have started. We saw it in California. Some fire started somewhere and it went out of control. And no matchbox or nothing will help. Fire started by nature, and we are spectators. But there is some fire going on. That is an initiative. In the wildfire, the God himself has initiated the fire with trees, dry trees, and so forth. But there is some initiation somewhere. And that is the first time God created fire and then let man rule the fire. Any slide, any comment? Venku?
Yeah, no, it's an important point. The difference between the two, it's fire being there is not the same as being able to start a fire. And I guess what you're saying is that the big change in human civilization happened when we knew how to start it. It's not like we were the first guys to make fire, but the big thing was knowing how to initiate a fire. And the moment you can initiate it, I guess the point you're making is you can control when it starts, you can control it once you know how to initiate it. And that was in some ways the big start of our civilization. Yes, very powerful point out. Yeah.
And here the good example is something day to day we observe. We keep a matchbox in our pocket, and matchbox fire and hiding. You have to activate it again. Somebody has to take the initiative. Yeah, activate initiative, and then the whole process will start. So if you want to light a cigarette, this is what you do, and then this is what you are expected to do, and you are doing. So it's a very important thing that opportunities are there, But opportunities to start the fire and opportunity vis-a-vis how a fire is taken further down, whether it's a matchstick or flintstone or whatever. All these are a series of initiatives taken by man. And opportunities are there, but then they are created. This is the important thing to remember is, opportunities don't land on your lap. You're created, not given. So nothing lands on your lap. Nothing in nature. Nature tells you, don't wait for me to drop something on your lap. Go ahead and do it. There are examples, folk stories about so many examples given there. So the important point is, the catchword is opportunities are created. You have to create. That is initiative. Right. Next slide, please.
So opportunities may be latent everywhere, but you still have to create it and take charge of it. And only then is it an opportunity for you. Right?
Right. So when you are doing something of this kind, you are disrupting something that is existing there.
Right.
So the boy and the man struck the piece of wood. There was nothing happening, and there was no activity at all. Inertia, everything was inert. But then you had to disrupt it. And the same old innocent-looking piece of wood turns into fire, which can be a forest fire, which can destroy a civilization like California. So disruption is an integral part of initiative. And if you are scared of initiative, you cannot disrupt. And if you are scared of disrupting, you cannot initiate. So that's the same coin. Yeah. Next slide, please.
So I think it's again a useful point to just pause and think about that. That you effectively need to have the willingness to challenge the status quo, whatever it is, even in the smallest of things. Like I want to start exercise. I have to get out of the comfort of getting up at a particular time when I was getting up. And only if you do that, can you disrupt it enough that things will start, is I guess the point. And the second is that from that spark analogy, it's not like you need a very big thing. A spark is enough to start a fire. So the disruption can be in it, can be small, but there needs to be that trigger or that starting ignition. And that's why we call it ignition, right? Absolutely.
Right. So here, there is a powerful Kabir Doha, which is an example in modern management science or art. Kabir said more than 500 years ago that if you want to do something, don't wait for here, don't dawdle. Whatever you do yesterday, today, tomorrow, whatever it is, you act on it quickly. So in Kabir's words, it says, Kal kare so aaj kar. Whatever you are planning to do tomorrow, you do it today. And aaj kare so ab. Whatever you are planning to do today, you do it now. Do it right here and right now. So kal kare aaj kare so ab. Palame paralay hoegi. He says, fraction of a moment, your world can turn topsy-turvy. Like, the poor fellows whose head the tunnel roof fell and they are dying. So palame Pralay is Mahakumbh, like, Maha.
Not Mahakumbh. Any calamity. Pralay is any calamity.
Calamity. But Pralay basically is, a deluge and then the water, moving and destroying everything. It is Pralay. Pralay is water to start it. But then metaphorically, it went on to other things also. So Kala kare, aaj kare. So ab पल में परले होएगी कब बहुरी करेगा कब when will you do anything if in a fraction of a moment your life is over you die without fulfilling his obligations and so forth. There's a lot of philosophy in that, management principles are there and so forth. Next slide, please. The biggest question that an average person is facing is what if now. You have initiated something and you want to start acting, but then suddenly a doubt comes in your mind. What if, you want to catch a flight at 10 o'clock and then catch the next flight and move on to California or whatever. And you say, oh my God, what if the plane doesn't come? What if somebody hijacks the plane? What if, my mother-in-law phoned and started shouting at me? What if is a very powerful dissuader. And that's a good way to pour cold water on your initiative. What if, and you'll never do anything. You will be completely deprived of action. So what if, is a major hurdle, mental hurdle, internal hurdle
Correct.
that has to be overcome. Yeah, any
Correct.
slide, any comment, Ugo?
No, absolutely. And I guess the one of the things that, I mean, it's a normal English word, but a lot of the youngsters are now used to using the word "don't overthink," and so how to stop overthinking. And so, of course, you have to think. If you do anything, you will have to know what if. You have to plan. Planning requires you to think about scenarios. But
Right,
if you overthink or if you get obsessed with that, you are unable to act. And that's why you have to keep this what if business in control, right?
right,
Both good and bad. What if I win and start dreaming about that, or what if I fail and start worrying about that? Neither is useful for doing.
right, right, very true.
Yeah.
As there is always a point of no return, you
Correct.
know,
Yeah.
in this, you cross a point and then you are gone.
Correct.
Before that, you are okay, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Now, in this initiative context, there's a standard management joke again,
Correct.
there are four guys by
Correct.
name, everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody.
Right.
Uh, there was an important job that had to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Yeah. And
Right.
somebody got angry about it, and somebody got, when everybody's job, he thought everybody's job, everybody's job. It's a very confusing play of words, but it is happening in our mind,
Very accurate.
So
Yeah.
somebody got angry. Somebody got angry about it because it was everybody's job.
Correct.
Anybody would do it, but nobody would do it because he all thought that somebody else will do it.
Somebody would do
He can
it.
keep with these words. He can keep rotating it and then make a joke.
No,
But
the last one is the perfect one, right? Everybody blamed somebody when nobody did it, because
nobody,
anybody could have done it, but nobody did it.
yeah, nobody. So it's a standard joke, but very
Yeah.
powerful.
Very powerful.
And
Yes.
and this is the initiative element comes.
Correct.
The standard thing is if you don't do it, somebody else will,
Right.
For example, if you got a boss and you got some subordinate and arguing about things, and the guy says, I don't want to do it. And then the boss threatens him, if you can't do it, I'll find somebody who will do it at
Correct.
half the price. It's
Correct.
a standard management dialogue. Hmm? If you don't want to do it, or if you don't do it, I'll find somebody or somebody else will do it.
Correct.
So the simplified version of the earlier poem that we saw. So if you don't do it, I'll do it. It happens everywhere. In
Correct.
marriage, your wife does something and my husband is not happy,
Correct.
and the husband is saying, if you don't do it, I'll find another wife. It may sound stupid, but many of these interactions are like that. If you don't do it, and if you can't do it,
Correct.
then get lost. I got somebody here at half the price and so forth. So
Correct.
this is something that you have to keep in mind constantly in your day-to-day interactions too.
Correct.
Next slide.
Yeah. No, I'll just pause here for a second because it's a very important point. It sounds like a slightly harsh point, but it's a reality that in day-to-day life, for example, taking opportunity, in a job, you sometimes feel, no, it's my job. How can they take it away, or they will not take it away? But for example, in a business or entrepreneurial setting, let's say you're sitting on a street selling something, and you are not going to take the initiative. There are other sellers there, right? And that's a reality which is much starker there. And like you said,
Right.
it's there in personal situations as well. The vacuum is always filled by something. If you do not act in a vacuum, something negative can act in the vacuum as well. That's another way of looking at this, right? If you
Right.
if you don't take charge of your health, disease can. So
Right.
you have to take charge of your health because it won't stay static. That vacuum, something negative might fill as well. Yeah.
Quite right. Okay. Now, in terms of initiative, there are two elements, two persons which have to act sort of in complement or once or together or
Work
whatever
together. Yeah. They
in
work together.
smooth fashion. And there comes your first mover, the fellow who is acting first, who is initiated the whole thing, and
Right.
he was overcome what if doubt,
Correct.
etc.
Correct.
And his action will have to be smoothly taken along with somebody else, and there's a sequence of action, etc., required in management terms. You will see, but we will see here. But the guy who makes the first move,
Right.
guy who is making the first move is said to have an advantage. In marketing,
Right.
you want to enter a market, there is a joke about salesman going to Africa and with a truck full of shoes.
Right.
And he went to Africa, and then he found that nobody was wearing any shoes, and then how am I going to sell my shoes?
Correct.
So he's back to the head office in Paris or whatever. And
Right.
then the management sends another guy
Right.
who says, yeah, yeah, you don't wear shoes, but there's a great opportunity. Everybody here can buy my product and so forth. It's a
Correct.
standard joke.
Correct.
So
how you look at it, yeah, somebody can look at it as nobody is wearing shoes, so I can't sell. And somebody says nobody is wearing shoes, so I have so many to sell. Absolutely. Such a difference in the way you look at it.
So it's a jocular example of management, sales
and it's
motivation.
a very positive thing. I mean, the whole thing about you look at the glass, if you look at things as how do I act? What is the opportunity to act? Like you said, you have to create that opportunity. That opportunity was latent. It didn't exist unless you did something about it. But the first mover has maybe, like you said, he gets the advantage if he moves, but he also has to overcome that what if, right? What if nobody wants the shoe and says, we have never used shoes, why do we need it? But you have to counter that and move forward. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Next slide, please. Now here, there is always an element of self-doubt.
Correct.
You are the initiator, and if you are the first guy to move,
correct,
and there's nobody around you look around and notice nobody there. You have a difficulty to ask. There's nobody. You do it or get lost. So dealing with self-doubt, this happens with all major achievers. When Tenzing Norgay and Hillary were climbing the Everest mountain.
Correct.
So when they were going up and up, there was nobody there except one guy.
Correct.
And if he falls, he dies. So that kind of a thing. And self-doubt, and you wonder what am I doing here? I could have completely settled in my air-conditioned room and so forth. Why should I be stuck in this initiative and so forth? So there's always an element of self-doubt in any such initiative.
Correct.
Because without self-doubt. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
So, self-doubt is an integral part of initiation. And then you have to overcome your own self-doubt. That is the trickiest part, for which you have to muster enough courage and faith and so forth. And there is some spiritualism involved in that and so forth. So self-doubt has to be dealt with and overcome and conquered. Yeah. Next slide, please. How are we time-wise, Vancouver?
I think we are good. Yeah. We can keep at it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, when you are doing something, you are dropping something.
Right.
So, this is a very interesting paradox.
Right.
You are doing something and you are dropping something. Somebody said, supposing I was in the States doing my residency.
Right.
And then I came to India.
Right.
So, fellow said, you are missing out on something. I said, no. I may be missing out in California, but I am gaining in Kurdwadi. There is an opportunity happening somewhere, which we forget. If you are a dropout at some point, you are also an initiator at some other point. So this is something you have to internally manage. And the art of letting go is something where you have to learn when to let the other thing go, and then you concentrate on the new thing and so forth. So there is an art. So letting go is an art. And that has to be managed. The problem is most of us keep looking back, if only I had done this, if only so-and-so company took me, or if only so-and-so boss did something. All that, the self-doubt, yes, but self-doubt has to be zeroed in. Yeah, that's where the art of letting go comes in. And most of us find it very difficult to let go. So if you, Any comment?
No, I think it is actually just what you said. You cannot move to the next thing or take the next step unless you let go of the previous step. Or if you want to reach out to another branch, you have to let go of the other branch. And that transition is an essential part of what you are calling the disruption, right? You have to make peace with the fact that that is just part of everything. Not easy, but at least if you know that is just, that's just the way it has to be. You can't, if you want to graduate, still be studying 12th standard, right? So you have to leave 12th standard behind and go to first year degree, whatever it might be. So it is just inherent in everything, and it's best to recognize. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's this whole set of new norms that you will face in life. And there things keep evolving and keep moving. For
Correct.
example, in this line diagram you see, it started with a plan,
Right.
like going back to the shoe seller.
Correct.
The shoe seller thought that he would sell these shoes and that's it.
Correct.
But he couldn't sell the shoes. Then he returned home or he is finding some other shoe. You
Correct.
know. So there is a plan A, and that has to be given lent over to plan B. And
Correct.
even plan B may fail. You
Correct.
can the next pair of shoes, but then the shoes color didn't match or the size didn't match or something. Again,
Correct.
you drop that. Your plan B has to be dropped.
Correct.
Plan A, there is nothing that's happening in one plan. In a
Correct.
complicated world, you have to have plan A and plan B, and nowadays plan C and plan D are also finding their place in the sun.
Correct.
So, but they don't express it this way. But if this doesn't work, something else will.
Correct.
And you should know
You figure out a way. Yeah. Figure out a way to get it done is the approach, rather than being hung up on any given plan that you had conceived. You just have to say, taking the initiative requires being fluid enough to say, if not one way, another way. I'll figure out some way.
Yeah. There is it reminds me of my professor in Cleveland.
Right.
He had a project and then he was working on it and spent a lot of millions of dollars and so forth. But then he soon realized that his plan is not working.
Correct.
But behold, his own subordinates wouldn't accept that. You don't accept defeat. They take it as a defeat. They take it as an emotional attachment, which is bad.
Correct.
Nothing of emotion is bad. Everything of emotion is bad, if you like.
Right.
This is true in religion. It is true in sociology, philosophy, whatever.
Right.
So that's where it is. So you have to
let go and move on to the next.
Yeah. Now, letting go and moving on has myriad dimensions for us to look at, but we need not look at everything in one go. In our series of interactions of this point will come again and again in a different format. Here is a chessboard, and a guy moves on the chessboard. And he has got his fingers on the white color. It's not really white, is it?
White.
So somebody is playing white, he has an advantage because he's calling the shots to begin with. He's making the first move. The first mover advantage is there in him. As we saw, even first mover advantage also has its limitations, and you should be aware of that. For example, in the very same thing, you made the first move, and the guy playing the white will feel very dominant and so forth. But lo and behold, the very next move, before you say Jack Robinson, the blacks have come and occupied center stage. And so it changed, everything changes. It's a dynamic situation. So that is where even the first mover advantage has to be looked at in its own complex manner, which we'll see presently. Next slide, please. First mover advantage gives you an opportunity, yes, definitely, and it gives you a springboard. But lo and behold, people bark up the wrong tree, as they say. People take the wrong springboard and make the wrong jump. So we have to be ready for that. Initiation advantage is very much there, but at the same time, you have to be circumspect to see that you are jumping the right, you are barking up the wrong tree, you're jumping the right, whatever. So
yeah, I think what we are effectively saying across the last 3 or 4 slides is, of course, it is very important to take the initiative. You get the advantage of being the first mover, that any first move requires disruption. But it can very easily happen that you need to change your plans or be adaptable to situations. You have to let go of either your past, or you have to let go of your idea, even in the current of whatever you took. So we will discuss, of course, how being flexible, letting go, is about a mindset of being adaptable, right? You can't expect that just because you took the initiative or just because you moved first, things will just go smoothly. And that's the only way to keep moving ahead. Otherwise, you'll say, oh, the last time I moved first, or the last time I took the initiative, I got stuck, so I won't do it next time. So the only sustainable way is to remain fluid and remain open to adapting to circumstances. Absolutely. Yes.
There are disadvantages of being a first mover. 2 or 3 are listed here. For example, you have heavy investment. The first guy to enter a field has to invest more heavily, emotionally and financially and politically and so forth. So heavy investment is called for in the first mover. And there is no prior experience. Your experience is theoretical. You can go through computer models and so forth, but there is no real tangible first-time experience. So that is a weakness. So you make the wrong move thinking that it is very good, and then you end up in a ditch or something. And then, of course, higher expectations. People, you are on the limelight, you are on the spotlight. People say, oh, something great is going to happen. Mr. So-and-so is coming into the field. He's the first mover, great guy, blah, blah, blah. And the expectations are very high. Newspapers are covering you. And deep down, you are very insecure, So very high expectations and not sure of initiating or gaining something is a big handicap. So there are examples given of industrialists, Ambanis and Adanis and so forth, who are investing heavily every minute. And every minute something great is expected of them. And that is where the hitch lies. So these are the disadvantages. Next slide, please.
So I think it's important to say why we are making this point, Doctor, because see, I think we've been saying take the initiative, then we are saying there are disadvantages. I think it combines to say that you can't take the initiative on the assumption that these things are not going to happen. You take the initiative, you have to recognize, yes, heavy investments, no prior experience. Why, so many people go and now climb the Everest every year. But the first time was difficult because nobody had ever done it before. So Tenzing and Hillary didn't know that it was even possible. So I think what point we are making in these couple of slides is none of this is to say you should live in a fool's paradise or assume that it's just going to be smooth sailing. In fact, the more prepared you are that these challenges are there, and you may have to let go of a given plan or you may have to let go of a pet theory, the better equipped you are to take the initiative. Is that a fair point, Doctor?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So initiative and self-direction. Now you are alone. Again, going back to Mount Everest, you are alone totally. Whether you want to take the right foot first step or the left foot first, that in Everest, every move, every step is a fatal thing. It can happen.
Can be fatal. Exactly.
Yeah. So they say there's 2 steps, but the 2 steps could be wrong. And you fall down 2,000 feet and so forth. Anyway, initiative and self-direction. Now, this is something, again, every step in the mountaineering, they teach you psychology. Be sure of your foot, and at the same time, be ready for a slip, and so forth. Initiative and self-direction are 2 sides of the same coin. And of course, divine guidance and divine help is required, and so forth. Next slide, please.
I think this is the last slide.
Okay. Venkatesh, you can summarize, have the last word as always. You always the last
word. I'm just summarizing the previous words. Yeah. So I think, sorry, yes, Doctor, you were saying?
Yeah, that's it. No, I'm waiting for you to summarize.
Okay, I'll take the initiative and summarize. Okay.
Good.
So
good.
I think we ended on this slide because, while Doctor has been talking about we need to take the initiative, it's an absolute necessity to act, being thoughtful about it, right? That this is what taking the initiative involves. It involves letting go of the status quo, not easy to do, being ready to disrupt a few things, being ready to understand that no one plan will work, and that there are advantages to taking the first move, which you have to embrace. But with it comes the need to be adaptable. And we have ended on this slide because, and this is how it connects to many of our other, there may be people who wonder why we talk so much about spirituality or faith or anything of that sort. In this diagram, there's a guy standing there. He wants to take the initiative. Theoretically, he can take the initiative in any one of those 4 directions. And he doesn't know which of the 4 directions is going to work. He has to make it work. And you have to have some faith in something, including in, duty or letting go. And like what we have said before, nishkama karma, all of these connect back to action, right? So the idea was not to end necessarily on a very spiritual note, but it's a good place to end, because we could easily have ended this with saying, move, take the initiative and you will win. Nobody can guarantee that, right? There is no guarantee that you take the initiative and you will win. But you can keep acting if you have some faith that that's your job. Your job is to keep moving. Yeah, Doctor?
Yeah. Absolutely. And there is an element of spirituality in every move, every breath. And we should be happy with it and be humble enough to be ready for better action next time. Anyway, as Venkatesh, any further thoughts on summarizing?
No. I think you're good there. So thank you so much, doctor, and look forward to the next one. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.